Well, I guess that answers everything, right?
No, it answers nothing.
That answers why they act the way they act.
No.
And then we have this article, Prince Charles claims kinship to Vlad the Impaler, helps to save Transylvania's forests. Oh, wow, he cares about nature. He's a humanitarian. He's a good guy, right?
Are you implying that Prince Charles is a vampire?
Not just a vampire, an eco-friendly vampire.
Look, let's say Vlad had 2 kids, and those kids had 2 kids, and so on and so on. That would mean there would be 17 billion people who would have DNA related to Vlad. So goddamn what?
A study once showed that all but one American president is blood related to Queen Elizabeth. A 12-year-old girl connected it all and even tweeted it to the president at the time, Obama. Unfortunately, she didn't get invited to the White House. Now if she had a different coloured skin and did something a bit more mundane like transfer the inner workings of her clock into a pencil case, then it would have been a different story. Damn it, I'm doing it now. This digression shit is contagious. My point is, with enough time, you could probably link anyone to anyone, yet still prove nothing.
And again, Prince Charles here to Dracula's bloodline. The Romanian Tourist Board is to use links between the British royal family and Count Dracula to lure in UK tourists. It has emerged.
They're going to lure UK tourists.
Dun dun dun.
She cares about animals. What is that? That's a kangaroo? What is that, a wallaby? Who cares?
Agreed. What the fuck does this have to do with the origin of the white race?
CBS News reports Vlad the Impaler. How is Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth related to him? Queen Elizabeth related to Vlad the Impaler? Wow.
Come on, you honestly can't be that dumb, right? If Prince Charles is related to Vlad the Impaler, then his fucking mother would be as well. You stupid fruitcake.
Let's take a look at this section. Just going to talk about when so-called white people emerged on the face of the earth. So-called white man is not, and I repeat, not native to Europe.
Dude, guess what? If you're born somewhere, you are a native. You're like that crazy person who thinks that white people colonized Great Britain. They've been there since the frickin' Stone Age. They're the ones who built the frickin' Stonehenge. But
First, the white man entered Europe around 1200 BC as illiterate horse nomads.
as opposed to those literate horse nomads.
They could not and did not begin to record their history until they had absorbed the knowledge of the so-called blacks in Europe, who were the creators of the original European civilization.
I've been trying not to use this, but citation needed.
Ugh, I spent hours looking for proof of Caucasians stealing the Kang's throne and found nothing. While it is true that Caucasians first appeared around 12,000 years ago, as in blonde hair, blue eyes, we're closely related to the Cro-Magnons, who did originally have dark skin, yet still shared traits such as straight hair. Where the fuck it got 3,000 years ago is anybody's guess. More random numbers out of his arse?
So I gathered some pictures here just to illustrate, and this is going to tie into my upcoming video called Black Children Inherit Dust. But basically, these are melanated people, indigenous people who have straight hair. So white folks don't have a monopoly on straight hair.
So fucking what? I see they have a dark complexion and 3 of them have straight hair. No arguments here. They show a mix of African Caucasian DNA. What's your point?
Here because they were never on the face of the earth until recently. They just emerged.
40,000 years is recent? Have you no concept of how time works?
Okay, they were injected into civilization, if you will.
Injected? I'd like to know what the hell you've been injecting. It's killing your brain cells and you're becoming capable of rational thought.
So you had a people of dark complexion with straight hair that they were the first to spread. And here we have a group of melanated people with Asiatic features who also spread across the face of the earth.
You do realise the picture on the far left and the far right is the same person, right? Just thought I'd point that out. Can you tell Asians apart? You fucking racist.
Again, these group of people transformed, and I have to emphasize transformed, into what you see as Asian people. I'm not going to get into the process of the transformation. I'm going to leave that for my documentary that will be on Patreon. So again, we have Aboriginals, darker skinned Aboriginals with straight hair.
Wait. You are claiming that if I pay you money, I can get your video from Patreon, and all of this will finally make sense. No. I am waggling a finger at you in a disapproving fashion. No.
And African features. And then we had Asiatic melanated people who spread across the face of the earth, also transformed into what we see as Asian. We also have these different type of Aboriginal people, different complexion. Then we have the Dravidians, what you guys call Indians in the US. Also, not so much Asiatic features, but they do have straight hair, dark complexion. And then we have the albinos, very white skin, light colored eyes, blonde hair.
No, those were not all albinos.
Okay? And again, here's another albino child in India.
He's a fucking idiot. Albinism has nothing to do with Caucasians. It's a genetic disorder that causes the skin, hair, or eyes to have little or no colour.
There have been some instances of so-called black people giving birth to albinos. I want to make it very clear, the so-called white people you see here are not really albinos. They are derived perhaps from albinos, but they're not albinos.
Wait, what? You show me what? You're showing me pictures that read albinos and then tell me not albinos. What the hell are you talking about?
Again, we're going to go into where white people come from towards the end of the video, so bear with me.
I don't want to bear with you. I want to feed you to a bear at this point.
So again, we look at the history of Europe. We see that there was a black Jesus Christ in Europe, okay, painted. We had statues of blackamoors in Europe. It's there still today.
You know the Moors invaded Europe, right? Like about 300 years before the Crusade counterattack? You got that? No, just wondering.
Right? And we have a black Mary and a black Jesus in Europe. Yeah.
No, you do not.
That is a picture of a black Mary and Jesus.
So, yeah, we know the history, okay? We know the history. We even had blacks over in Asia, okay? When I say blacks, again, I'm just using that for communication purposes, but we're talking about people with dark complexion, okay? And again, we have a statue of a figure in Cambodia, African features, and another statue in Thailand with African features.
Those eyes are not African features. And are you saying all Africans have big noses and lips? That's racist, you know. That's why a lot of cartoons from the 40s, 50s and 60s are now banned. I really hope Antifa or Black Lives Matter don't get a hold of that statue. They destroy it in a blink of an eye, claiming it shows negative racial stereotypes or some bollocks.
So the point of this section is that the entire face of the earth was covered with people with dark complexion. White people were not on the face of the earth. They just arrived recently.
This is just a saga now.
So the point of this section is that the entire face of the earth was covered with people with dark complexion. White people were not on the face of the earth. They just arrived recently.
Okay, you caught us. We just arrived. Yesterday, in fact. We used our psychic powers to enslave all the back people. Again, apparently. So go pick me some cotton, Earthling.
So-called black people, so-called Indians, so-called Aboriginals.
If they are so-called, then it is not clear. What are they actually called?
We're in Europe, we're in Asia, they were all over. Let's get that clear. Now, I'm going to elaborate further on this particular topic in my upcoming video called Black Children Inherit Dust. Now, let's go into some further research. I want you to get some books that will help you understand further where white people come from.
Wait, after all of this, I need to read books. Where do white people come from? You promised to tell me.
We're going to look at the book Gods of Eden. We're going to have to get the book Everything You Know Is Wrong, Book 1, Human Origins. We're going to also have to get the book Slave Species of the God, The Secret History of the Anunnaki and Their Mission on Earth.
Wait a minute. I actually read these books. Yeah, I remember that one. Tiamat was a planet and it was orbiting the sun counterclockwise and it smashed into the fourth planet, making Earth, which cooled, and they orbit back around every 40,000 years. And there's these race of giants and they come to Earth to mine for gold, right? Kingu was a moon, something like that. It's all coming back to me now.
Also going to have to look at the book Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of the Human Race. Also going to have to get the book Children of the Matrix, How an Interdimensional Race Has Controlled the World for Thousands of Years and Still Does.
By David Icke, the ex-goalkeeper turned nutjob who thinks the world is controlled by fucking lizard people.
Then we must also get the book Missing 411. Then, of course, The Mysterious Origins of Hybrid Man, Crossbreeding, and the Unexpected Family Tree of Humanity. Also have to get the book, and I mean have to get the book Genesis Revisited. That is a must. You can also check out this video on YouTube by a YouTuber named The Crazy German. He blatantly just came out and said, look, have to admit, white people are not human.
Judging on what's going on in Germany these days, it's hard to take most of them seriously, let alone one who actually calls himself the Crazy German.
Okay, and he's a white dude, he's a German. He did 46 videos on just that one topic.
You want me to read 8 books and watch 46 videos from a crazy German because he's white and German? Well, just so you know, I don't think he's the only crazy person around here.
Pretty much his entire channel is about white people not being human. So don't have to take my word for it, you can take his word for it.
Or I can call you both batshit insane.
Or if you don't want to take his word for it, you could take it from a college professor that claims that black people are the only race that are 100% pure humans.
Published on Worldstar Hip Hop, no less. Because who wouldn't want to get their pseudoscience fix from a site dedicated to ugly women twerking? Wash your ass!
Dude, considering what I see at Evergreen and Mizzou University, the professor has less credibility than the crazy German.
So again, don't have to take my word for it. I'm a fool, I'm an idiot. You can take it from a college professor.
You said it, not me.
Or you can just look up any of those books that I just named, and the proof is in the pudding.
What proof? You've given nothing!
Now, once you check out a couple of movies, this movie you have to check out. Dracula Untold.
Why? What does any of this have to do with the origin of white people?
Must watch that video. Then you must check out the movie Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's Baby. A fictional story about a woman who gives birth to the Antichrist. Right.
That's not fictional, it's a true story.
I was that baby.
And then finally, I want you to check out The Village of the Damned.
Why?
These white folks are telling you where they came from. They're giving you small portions of their history.
Okay, you finally gave me a legitimate sense of laughter for a second there. So you think fictional movies are actual history? You put a smile on my face, friend.
Some of it you have to filter out. Even in these books, you have to filter out the misinformation and the rubbish.
You have to filter out the misinformation and the rubbish. But what would be left?
But within the rubbish, is the gem.
No, I'm certain there is just more rubbish.
Now, I want to go into my conclusion.
Please do. I'm waiting with bated breath, dying to know exactly how somehow you managed to solve the puzzle of rhesus monkeys, a 17th century despot, alien abductees, and the sudden appearance of white people to create your solid scientific discovery.
Now, before I get into my conclusion, I just want to share a couple passages from 4 of my books.
More plugging. More plugging. Oh, God, you are just a greedy bastard, aren't you? You are deliberately being as crazy as possible because you want a slice of that crazy nutjob money, don't you?
Just to show you guys what scholars and professionals are saying. Now, the first book we're going to look at is called Nutricide, and it's written by Dr. Layla Africa. So on page 193, it talks about the development quotient of an African child versus a Caucasian child. So the first row, they're talking about supplemental eating.
Now I don't know how to classify the complete absurdity of this section. So there's the strawman fallacy where you deliberately take something out of context to win an argument. But this is on a whole other level. It's on a completely different plane of existence. It's absolute bollocks.
So for an African child, that would be bananas, yams, squash, and pawpaw. These are alkaline foods, whereas a Caucasian will be eating meat, cereal. These are acidic foods.
So white kids don't eat fruit or vegetables, and black kids don't ever eat meat or cereal? Seriously? Just die in a fucking fire.
Now, the next row, it talks about how an African child greets his or her parents versus how a Caucasian child greets his or her parents. So for an African child, that would be the use of musical voice, sounds, clapping the hands, lifting arms, and smiling, whereas a Caucasian child would be mocking the play of wolves.
White people are wolves, and children greet their parents by licking blood.
Hello, Mother. Hello, Father. Allow me to show my pleasure at your presence by raising my hackles, growling lowly, and lapping at gently at some fluid that has been exsanguinated from our Negro.
What the fuck are you smoking, and where can I buy some?
Which would be embracing, hugging, which is used to kill a prey.
Black people don't hug. Huh.
Kissing, which is imitating eating a prey, or lapping blood, which would be like tongue kissing.
Holy Jesus jumping Jiminy Cricket Christ on a crutch. What child slips their mother some tongue? What sort of deranged madman are you?
When it comes to toys, African children are using musical, radionic fruits, berries, plants, stuffed animals, whereas the Caucasian is using hunting type spiritual devices, guns, hammers, mathematical.
I really think you are trying to make white people sound horrible, but the more you describe them, the more I want to be a blood-drinking vampire. I'm just saying, because, well, the way you're making this video out, black people sound like a bunch of fucking idiots. That's your words, not mine. I actually have a pretty high opinion of blacks, and if I was a black person watching this video, I'd be incredibly insulted by you, you racist motherfucker. You are so racist, not against white people, against black people. In your universe, why would anybody want to be black? My God, you have to be a Democrat.
For the African child, when it comes to faces, family, and environment, for the Caucasian child, face-to-face while sitting with parent.
What does that even mean?
Now, when it comes to beating for the African child, none. The child is too young to understand the purpose. Only 14 months or older.
You think it's okay to beat a child at 14 months? You think that's perfectly okay to slap a 1-year-old? You are a fucking degenerate wanker.
But when it comes to the Caucasian child, when it comes to beating, the parents are slapping the infants. Now, when it comes to food for the African child, that would be raw grape or orange juice powder herb at 3 months. No digestive problems.
You really are a complete moron if you think giving orange juice to an infant under a year old is a good idea. At 3 months old, they should still be on breast milk or formula. And what dumb wank stain gives the kid raw meat?
When it comes to the Caucasian child, when it comes to food, mostly cooked or raw cereal, pastry, cow's milk. And then the child will have indigestion, burping, drooling, nose dripping, mucus, requires patting on the back after feeding to relieve indigestion. Okay, and for the African child, when it comes to sensor motor and psychomotor skills, 12 months or less indicates hunger and sound, cooing and whimper. For the Caucasian child, 2 to 3 years or more, the child will cry to indicate they have an issue.
2 to 3 years or more for what? And actually, sensor motor is as early as 1 month in children. Walking at 9 months, object permanence at 10 months. If you aren't walking by 16 months old, your child pretty much has a problem. Excuse me, I do have to ask this. Have you ever had children? And if so, can we call Child Protective Services to take them from you?
Now let's look at the book African Holistic Health. This is page 303. This is a lot of differences here. You could pretty much just take a look at it. But everything is pretty much different. From the blood, the liver, the hair, alcohol, eyes, nose, everything is different here. And on page 304, they go even further, talk about the voice, the ears, the stomach.
Wait, whites can remove their ears. I have the ability to remove my ears. Does that mean I can put them back on? Are they reattachable? That's my question, because anybody could remove their ears. It's getting them back on that's the tricky part.
Stomach, the sexual parts, the list goes on. Many differences here. On page 511, it talks about the European defeating ancient Africa with diseases. And, he kind of goes in on the different diseases that the European, the so-called European, brought to Africa.
So-called? What are they actually called then? I'm truly curious as to what their actual name is.
Now, this book is titled African People and European Holidays, A Mental Genocide by Ashakamusa Barashango. And I'm going to actually read this part here because, again, this is going to tie into my conclusion. At their first Thanksgiving celebration in 1621, there was only 6 or 7 sane people left in the whole Pilgrim colony.
I call bullshit on that. I'm sure if it were the case, it would be more widely documented than in just some obscure book by someone with an unpronounceable name. And don't give me that bullshit that the white man is suppressing the information, because as we all know, the truth always finds a way.
The rest were mentally deranged. In other words, putting it into modern everyday language, the bulk of them were just plain crazy. Pilgrim cannibalism. Captain John Smith wrote, "So great was our famine that a savage we slew and buried. The poorer sort took him up again and ate him. And so did divers, once another's boiled and stewed with herbs. And one amongst the rest did kill his wife, powdered her, and had eaten part of her."
That's not crazy, that's desperation to stay alive. The human's will to live against all odds. And certainly not limited to white settlers.
And now I want to look at the book, Everything You Know Is Wrong.
No arguments here. Everything you know is wrong.
And that's written by Lloyd Pye. I'm going to actually read this part here. It's very important. It says in part 2, we have learned that after 4 million years of supposed evolution, the ultimate distillation of pre-human development was the heavy-boned, massively muscled, rather dim-witted brutes called Neanderthals, who apart from upright posture, bear no physical relationship to modern humans. Very important. That means there is no legitimate way to connect humanity to Earth's remote past. That means Darwinism does not, cannot, and never will explain how mankind got here.
So if Neanderthals have nothing to do with human evolution, then are you saying that not only white people have just appeared out of nowhere and were just dropped here by aliens, but black people had to have been as well? I bet you think the Earth is flat as well, don't you?
This is a powerful statement most scientists would prefer the general public never hear, much less understand. Also realize that it opens some unusual avenues of inquiry along very non-traditional lines. For example, if humanity did not evolve here on Earth, how on earth did we get here? And if Neanderthals and early hominid types are the true native population on planet Earth, why and how and when did all of them go extinct?
Because of some crazy little theory known as natural selection. More than likely they were killed off by early man, since there was direct competition for space and resources. Which is also why chimps and gorillas still do exist. Being less intelligent than Neanderthals, they weren't in direct competition with humans for the same food, space and resources. Pretty simple, really.
Now we're going to look at the last book that I want to reference. And this is the book, African People and European Holidays and Mental Genocide, page 28 to 29. Alright, so it says the Scythian disease. It says in the capitalized sketch of the Scythians, who were the progeny of the white Cro-Magnon and the ancestors of Hitler's Aryan race, we are presenting a case study of the manifest abysmal gap between the African and the Caucasian who later invaded and inhabited East, West, Central, and Southern Europe, with the hope that you will not accuse us of being racial bigots teaching hatred. We are basing the following remarks on one white man's view of his own ancestry, a Greek geographer and historian of the 5th century BCE named Herodotus.
Yeah, someone from 500 BC is the definitive source on the origin of white people.
The Scythians were a branch of the Caucasian race from the far northeast of the Asian continent and parts of northern Europe. They referred to themselves as being the youngest of all the nations in the ancient world, having emerged on the scene somewhere between 2000 to 1500 BCE. According to one Scythian tradition, they descended from a cave-dwelling viper woman, a horrid creature with the head and torso of a woman from the waist up and the venom-laden body of a snake from the buttocks down. It's really weird that out of all the words that could have a typo, he had a typo with the word snake. It's ridiculous.
You're basing your crazy theory on it. People descending from a fucking snake woman. You are mental.
But it says shake there, but it's supposed to be snake. Anyhow, the story goes on to tell how she once tricked an Egyptian named Hercules. It goes on and on. Let me go to the juicy part here.
So you are claiming because someone made up a story about Hercules knocking up some Naga, white people are descended from alien viper women.
Where we want to go? So Herodotus says they were the most uncivilized nation in the world and sustained themselves by eating the raw flesh of their cattle.
Yet civilized to actually have cattle.
In fact, the eating of rare beef is still a big thing with the descendants here in America today. The rarer, the bloodier it is, the better they like it. The Scythians also abhorred the use of water for bathing. Instead, they basked themselves in the vapors of burning hemp, from which they would derive a narcotic high.
So they smoked a bit of weed. So?
Herodotus further depicts them as violent, Warlike nomads devoid in the science of agriculture who traveled and lived in wagons. These early predecessors of today's arrogant Euro-Americans rode into combat wearing black capes and fell upon their victims with vampire-like fury, sucking the blood from the body of the first person they killed in battle.
Wearing black capes and sucking blood. So they had an army of Bela Lugosi-era vampires. Right.
It was also customary to scalp their fallen enemy and drink the blood. Alright, so my personal opinion on where white people came from, based on the information that I have in this video, and information that I didn't even bother to put in the video.
Information you didn't bother to put in the video. Why not? Seriously, why not? If you have any shred of confirmation that your wacky theory is remotely possible, then you should have included it. Although judging on what you did include, I'm sure it would have been gobtastically hilarious.
They are obviously not humans, and they were not created here, okay? We spoke about Rh negative blood, how everyone is Rh positive, but all of a sudden you have a group of so-called Caucasians that are Rh negative.
Yes, suddenly, 40,000 years ago. You have a very strange use of the word sudden, by the way.
Right? We talk about their common ancestors being Neanderthals.
And now you're showing someone with bad teeth. Because one person with pointed teeth is clearly proof that white people aren't human. You're an idiot. I've really tried to see things from your point of view, but I just can't get my head that far up my own arse.
We talk about their makeup, their anatomy being sulfur-based. We talk about Vlad the Impaler. We've just spoken about the Scythians. Obviously, their ancestors were hybrids. They were reptilians. They were savages, okay?
So, white people are reptilians. You could have saved me a half hour.
They know this, and this is why, you try to talk to white folks about their ancestors. They say we're all humans. They say they came from Africa. No, you didn't come from Africa, okay? Again, we can look at the book African Holistic Health. It talks about the differences between blacks and whites. And again, I'm just using that term, but you know what I mean. But Europeans and Aboriginals is completely different, okay? The diet, the phenotypes, the physiology, completely different. We spoke about what traits that Rh negative people have.
Don't forget how Rh negative people can stop watchers with their minds.
I mean, the list goes on. Again, I have more information. I have video footage. I have news articles. I didn't even bother to include in this video because then it would be like a 2-hour video. That would be overkill. So that's my conclusion. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Yes, please. Leave your comments below, even if the Eldrich God or myself is wrong on anything. Your input and feedback is important to us.
Until next time, Conspiracy Dude.
I'm not even sure where to begin with this, much less how to end it, other than this guy's body language reminds me of when I used to live in Buffalo and I would walk down the street and these guys would come up to me and try to con me. They'd try to say, hey, can you give me change? And they would present $1 and they'd try to convince me that they gave me a 10 when they gave me a 5. Or they'd have this intricate story about, oh, I can't get my keys, and then there is this problem if I could just borrow a few dollars. And every time they do this, they've always got that same whiny tone in their voice. That goddamn whiny tone. Soon as I heard that whiny tone, it didn't matter. I guess my point for saying this is this guy has that same greedy, whiny tone. It's why he keeps talking about all of his books. It's why he says, well, if you make a donation, you can go and see the video that actually makes sense. He doesn't have anything. It's a scam artist. It's like a bunch of Russian nesting dolls where you keep opening up the doll to find another doll until you find another doll, and then eventually it's just empty. There's nothing in there at all. And the reason is because he's got nothing, but he's trying to prey upon people with mental illness, people who are paranoid, people who are delusional, by feeding them some sort of paranoid theory about how everybody is a reptilian, and thus he can justify his own racism. But more importantly, he can get people worked up, get them afraid, and scared people will do anything in order to make themselves feel safe, including throwing money at a con artist. This guy isn't crazy. I don't think he's crazy at all. I don't think he believes any of the shit he's saying. It's why you don't see his face for most of the video. It's because how could he possibly keep a straight face while saying all this bullshit? No. He's a con artist, trying to get you hooked so that you feed into his story, get you afraid, get you emotional, and then get you to buy the next tier. It's the same shtick that they use in every cult. I mean, just go look at the Scientology. Well, if you can get to the next level, if you just have enough money, then we'll hook this machine up to your head, which is basically a galvanometer hooked up to a couple of tin cans, and remove the evil thetans that are plaguing your soul. Or in this case, I'm sure he'll explain how to keep the tongue-thrusting bad teeth people away with garlic or some shit, I guess. I don't know. I don't care. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is kill myself. And then when my tainted soul reaches whatever accursed afterlife, I will topple whatever entity rules there. And from a throne of skulls I will rule over all, and I will order my minions to lash together a fear engine made of bone, blood, and pain. And then I will command them to use it to bore a hole from that world back into this one. The first sign of my imminent return will be when the sun is blotted out by a giant black sphere, from which will burst forth 1,000 starving crows. Then, as I pry my way back into this world, with tears of bubbling pitch streaming down my face, I will open 3 of my 7 mouths and sing the song that destroys the world.